journalist. Thank you for tuning into my station. And today I'm going to be doing an astrological report on the new moon in Scorpio this November 18th, and it's going to be at 26 degrees. So as you can see here on my chart, I have, as always, highlighted the major planetary transits that are surrounding this new moon and any stars that are being highlighted at the new moon. And so we're going to go over all these subjects, and there's a lot of planetary shifts at the end of November coming into December. So this particular astrological video is going to cover from the end of November all the way to December, because there's just so much emphasis right now with this new moon of what's going on. So just to give a quick review, in this video, it's going to be two parts. The first part is going to be an astrological overview of the new moon in Scorpio and some intuitive insights alongside to that. And the second part of this video is going to be a reading with the Star Child Tarot deck, and it's going to be separate. I was just divinely guided to do a twin soul soulmate reading with the Star Child Tarot deck. So for anyone interested to tune into that portion, it will be at the end of the video or attached below. So thank you for tuning in. What is going on? This Scorpio new moon. New moons are all about new beginnings. Scorpio has to do with the death and rebirthing, the transformative process of the death and rebirth. And so a Scorpio new moon will be highlighting the birthing of something new. And because it's at 26 degrees, that's also a very important numerological degree, because 2 + 6 = 8. And that's the infinity code. And if you watched my past video, the new moon in Libra started this numerological sequence. On October 19th, Libra was at 26 degrees. And then the full moon in Taurus on November 4th was at 11 degrees. Now we have the Scorpio new moon at 26 degrees. The full moon in Gemini, December 3rd, will be at 11 degrees, and the new moon in Sag, December 18th, will be again at 26 degrees. So what's important about that is that we have a 26 and 11 code all the way through till the end of December. 26 is the infinity sign, 11 is a symbol of twins or a pair, and it highlights the importance of partnerships or our relationships. And so there's a huge focus right now about our love lives or about partnerships and relationships with this 26-11, 26-11, 26-11 cycle until the end of December. I'll get into a little bit about that in the tarot reading later on. But for now, I'm going to go over the astrological importance right now. So the new moon is actually being highlighted by a fixed star called Agena. I think that's how you pronounce it. And it's in the constellation of Centauri or Chiron. Why is this so important? The importance of this particular star highlights, and I'm going to be quoting astroking.com here, that Agena is the nature of Venus and Jupiter. It gives the position of friendship, refinement, morality, health, and honor. And if we know, astrologically speaking, this past week on November 13th, there was a super conjunction of Venus and Jupiter in the sky. And again, we have the star that represents Venus and Jupiter conjunct energy being highlighted again at this new moon. And so that's a very positive influence for a new beginning. And there's a lot of positive energy that comes from Venus and Jupiter. Venus is all about abundance and love, and Jupiter is about expansion and wisdom and abundance as well. So there's a huge positive focus for manifestation and for developing something new in our lives. Now, let's get into what Centaurus and Chiron mean, however. So it's important to go over that because Chiron is the wounded healer. And if we look into, just a second here, I'm going to just open up a quote about Chiron, which I felt to be very specific to understanding this transit right now. So Chiron is in Pisces right now. And when Chiron is in Pisces, it talks about wounding and healing. Healing with Chiron comes through the conscious realization of the sources of our wounds and makes us aware of our collective wounds about being too sensitive or empathic. It also brings to the surface an awareness of the suffering of other beings, people and animals. The opportunity of Chiron in Pisces is to be aware of the attunement to the suffering of others and to see how in this suffering we are all one. And the oneness is very symbolic of Pisces. The challenge of Chiron in Pisces is not to numb out, shut down, or withdraw self-protection. We need to acknowledge the suffering that surrounds us and to see how another's pain is equally our own. So this fixed, abundant, loving star is in the constellation of Centaurus, which is like the half man, half horse, and is also representative of Chiron, which is the wounded healer. He is like the healer who is wounded himself, but he is able to heal others through that wisdom. He turns those wounds into wisdom and to healing and into understanding unity consciousness, into embodying our oneness, into being empathic and understanding the suffering of others and how we are all collectively healing and we can empathize with each other. And so this is the healing aspect that's coming through at this new moon, to really, really embody this wounded healer within ourselves and the oneness with each other on the planet right now. So we have this huge focus of healing that's coming up. And then we have the square. The new moon is being squared with Mars in Libra and Pluto in Capricorn. This is another very intense energy. Mars and Pluto are both ruled by Scorpio, and Mars in Libra is not in a very exalted position. Neither is Pluto in Capricorn. And it creates a bit of discomfort. It's not in a very comfortable position. So the square can create crisis, eruptions, bring up buried anger, push domination, and have a lot of power issues come to the surface and power struggles. So the new moon in Scorpio, and Scorpio is all about power, and well, when it's going to be squared with this aspect, it's going to put some power struggles to the surface. And that's what's needing to be healed. This deep collective wound of trying to dominate or overpower others is needing to be healed, because Chiron with this fixed star Agena is highlighting the need for us to embody empathy, oneness with each other, and understanding collective suffering at a higher level, and healing these deep wounds collectively, and being responsible for the power struggles that create suffering in our brothers and sisters. So this is a very intense aspect that can create some chaos or crises or eruptions collectively. Individually, it could be very healing. It could be a very healing aspect because, like I said, we've got this Venus conjunction with Jupiter highlighted with this star, and this star is showing us the path of healing, which is embodiment of unity consciousness, of embracing our collective suffering, acknowledging it, and allowing it to be healed. So another huge theme, which is very similar to what I've just been discussing, is the transit. Neptune in Pisces is currently in retrograde, and it's going to go direct on November 21st. So just 3 days after this new moon, we've got a huge Neptune in Pisces transit going forward, going direct. And we also have Chiron that will be going direct in Pisces on December 4th. So Chiron, again, this wounded healer, is now going to be moving forward out of retrograde. What does that mean? It means that we have finally looked at this deeper shadow aspect of our collective humanity, that we have finally now seen all these things coming up in the news, all these collective suffering that we see our other brothers and sisters experiencing. We are now going to be able to finally embrace the healing that is required. We're finally going to acknowledge what healing is now required. And so we're going to be looking at from a completely different perspective. And I have a quote here from Dark Star Astrology about the square in Pluto. And it says here, the energy of this square does us a great service by opening our eyes to the degeneracy in the world. It is only after the stench of putrefaction, it's only after the stench of this putrefaction is revealed that a new dawn is possible. And so it says that it may create prophecies being revealed, finally seeing this suffering, seeing this disgusting power domination behavior and how it creates suffering in others, when we finally see it for what it is, it can finally be revealed, and then a new dawn is possible. So that's a huge theme right now that we definitely need to understand, is highlighting the healing that is being aspected. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about this Neptune going direct. So while Neptune is in retrograde, we start to see things clearly, and the truth are much more brought to focus. But when it goes direct, it tends to make us want to escape from all this suffering. It tends to want us, it finally gives us a sense of relief, in a way, of the harshness of reality, and allows us to connect with our faith, with our spirituality, and with our dreams again, because we are trying to escape this harshness, and so we are kind of transcending into a higher level of consciousness. Unfortunately, the darker side of Neptune in Pisces going direct can have us as individuals choosing fantasy over reality too much. So we don't want to go too dreamy. We want to still embrace this harshness that has now been revealed to us. But we don't want to end up in a fantasy world about it. We don't want to escape from it with drugs and alcohol or other ways that we use to escape from reality in any way. So that's a really important part about the Neptune moving forward. And at the end, I say here, yes, let's keep the focus on the Venus conjunction with Jupiter that happened November 13th, that started off this wave, really highlighting a lot of beneficial energy. When we accept and acknowledge the healing, the wounds, we can turn those wounds into wisdom, and we can finally embrace the higher aspect of our collective identity and unity consciousness. Another last important aspect that's coming into focus is the Sun is going to be moving into Sagittarius on November 22nd. So 4 days after this new moon, we have the Sun moving into Sagittarius, which is almost like the Centaurus. It's the half man, half horse, arching, higher philosophy, higher thought, higher spirituality, higher consciousness. And again, the Neptune in Pisces moving direct is also pointing towards spirituality, towards embodying a higher level of faith. And again, being highlighted by the constellation of Centaurus. So we have this huge energy of Sagittarius that is going to be very beneficial for us to move through the next month until the end of December and embody truly a higher level of consciousness, of unity consciousness. So this is the astrological forecast that is coming up with this new moon. Sorry there, I got a bit cut off. So going on to this astrological transit, there is a lot of mythology and symbology that's coming through with the Centaurus and Chiron energy. Chiron, the wounded healer, is also symbolically depicted as Christ or Christ consciousness. And we also have Neptune in Pisces and Chiron in Pisces. Pisces, again, symbolic of the fish, symbolic of Christ consciousness, and embodying this unconditional love for our brothers and sisters. So I was reading The Power of the Myth by Joseph Campbell, and I finally finished this book. And there's no coincidence that I finally finished it in the last few weeks. And there was particular chapters that really provides us deeper philosophical and spiritual knowledge that can accompany this astrological and energetic transit and better understanding it. So one of the quotes from this book, he talks about Buddhism, and he says here, the Buddhists speak of the Bodhisattva, the one who knows immortality, yet voluntarily enters into the field of the fragmentation of time and participates willingly and joyfully in the sorrows of the world. And this means not only experiencing sorrows oneself, but participating with compassion in the sorrows of others. Compassion is the awakening of the heart from the bestial self-interest to humanity. The word compassion literally means suffering with. Now, I felt this quote to be so perfect in explaining about this energy of this Chiron wounded healer, of embodying this oneness and understanding the suffering of our brothers and sisters. And it really talks about this transcendental philosophical Buddhist practice of Bodhisattva. Sorry if I can't pronounce that, but it really describes it well. And there's another quote later on in the book. He talks about the Christ consciousness. And he says here, in discussing the God within, the Christ within, the illumination or the awakening that comes within, isn't there a danger of becoming narcissistic, of an obsession with the self that leads to a distorted view of oneself in the world? And Campbell responds, that can happen, of course. That's the kind of short-circuiting of the current. But the whole aim is to go past oneself, past one's concept of oneself, to that of which one can but an imperfect manifestation, which is one of an imperfect manifestation. When you come out of a meditation, for example, you are supposed to end by yielding all the benefits, whatever they may be, to the world, to all living beings, not holding them to yourself. You see, there are two ways of thinking. I am God. If you think I here, in my physical presence and in my temporal character, am God, then you are mad and you have short-circuited your experience. You are God, not in your ego, but in your deepest being, where you are at one with the non-dual transcendent. And I just felt those two particular passages to be really relevant in really understanding what the embodiment of unity consciousness and Christ consciousness is, and why the astrological transits right now really talk about how to do that. And that's where the greatest healing is going to happen for us collectively and individually. And so it ends by saying that we really have to embody this collective suffering, these collective wounds, and turn them into wisdom. And that will bring us the most benefit and manifestation of the Venus and Jupiter energy that this star is highlighting for healing. So I hope this brings you any blessings of healing in your life, of wisdom, of deeper insight and intuitive insight into this astrological transit that's going to be happening until the end of December, for really having a new beginning and looking at humanity from a new perception. So thank you for tuning into Starlight Wellness, and I wish you lots of love. And stay tuned for the second part of this video, which I'm going to focus on the tarot and the numerological sequence of the 26 and 11 that's coming through as well. So take care, much love.